Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, wa ba'd. So we continue with our study in this book, Kitaab At-Tawheed, by Shaykh Islam Muhammad ibn Abdil Wahaab, alayhi rahmatullah. In the last sitting, we discussed something from the Turjuma, the biography of the Mu'allaf, and something from the introductory speech. The introductory speech connected to the title of the book and what these terms mean, Kitab and Tawheed, when you bring them together and the likes. But today, inshallah ta'ala, we'll pick up and take a short section as I'm traveling, but I did not want to miss out on the lesson with the brothers. At any rate, we pick up from the kalam of a Shaykh Ubaid Al Jabirī, حفظه الله ورعاه. He says, وَمِنْ هُنَا يَلْزَمُنَا أَنْ نَعْرِضَ أقسام التوحيد. He said from here, it is incumbent upon us to do an expose, if you will, upon the categories of التوحيد. فأقول, so I say, تقسيم التوحيد إلى ثلاثة أنواع ليس أمرا اصطلاحيا حتى يقال لا مشاحة في الاصطلاح. That the categorization of التوحيد into three categories is not an affair that is istilahi, meaning it is not something which is a mere it is mere connected to it's not connected to religious terminologies or legislative terminologies such that it can be said that there is no basis for it within the Islamic terminologies. بل قام عليه الدليل نصا وإجماعا. Rather, the evidence establishes it, textual evidences, as well as there being a consensus upon this. أما من جهة النص, as for from the category of the textual evidences, meaning from the Book of Allah, from the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فإن الذي ينظر في آية التنزيل الكريم وسنة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the individual who looks into the verses of At-Tanzil, the verses that have come in the Book of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and into the authentic Sunnah of our beloved Prophet alayhi wasallam, يُظْهَرُ لَهُ ذَلِكَ. This is something which will become clear to him, meaning it will become clear to you by way of examining what is in the Book of Allah and what is in the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet alayhi wasallam. It will become clear to you that the categorization of At-Tawheed into three categories is something for which there is a basis. وَيَتَعَكَّ لَهُ أَنَّ التَّوْحِيدَ ثَلَاثَ أَقْسَامٍ, and it will become firmly embedded with the third, that Tawheed is of three categories. وَإِنْ لَمْ يَأْتِ نَصًّا هَكَذا, even though no text has come mentioning Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma'i wa Sifat, meaning no text has come in which, no verse in the Quran, no hadith has come explicitly mentioning Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Asma'i wa Sifat like this. He says, لكن ذلك مدلول عليه بالإشعار. Rather, this is something which is indicated and proven by way of what we examine and can see from the Book of Allah, from the Sunnah. أما الدليل الثاني, as for the second type of evidence which was mentioned, it is the ijma', it is the consensus. وقد ثبت بالإجماع, he says, and it is confirmed by way of al-ijma' al-istiqra'i, by way of the ijma'. Once we examine the statements of the scholars, both past and present, we will arrive at certain knowledge regarding the fact that Ahl Sunnah muttafiqun ala hada taqsim. The Ahl Sunnah are in total agreement regarding this categorization. Now, he says that وأول من نص على ذلك فيما بلغنا هو أبو حنيفة النعمان ابن ثابت رحمة الله عليه. And it has reached us that the first of those who textualized this categorization in this manner was the great Imam Abu Hanifa. His name is An-Nu'man ibn Thabit rahmatullah alayh. He is the figurehead and the founder of the Hanafi madhab. So he is the first to textually mention something regarding this inside his book Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar. Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar, yani he is amongst the first to categorize Tawheed in this manner. Now, he says that, and his student Abu Yusuf Yaqub Qadi al-Qudah, his student, yani his well-known student Abu Yusuf Yaqub, yani he was known as the judge of judges. He followed him within his time. ثم تتابع الأئمة على ذلك, and then the imams of the religion, they likewise were they follow him upon this. وبهذا نتحقق أن القول بأن تقسيم التوحيد من المصطلحات الحادثة. Due to this, we know that the statement of those who say that categorization of Tawheed as a legislative terminology in this manner is something which is haditha, it is a newly invented matter. This statement of theirs is qawl batil. It is a false statement. It is a false statement. Rather, it is abdalu al-batil. Rather, it is the most false of falsehoods. وإنما أراد هؤلاء أن يدخلوا من محدثات الأمور التي ألفوها في التوحيد. Rather, these people, they hope and intend by way of this to consider or to include Tawheed and the categorization of Tawheed amongst those false affairs, amongst those amongst those newly invented matters which they have invented and tried to insert in Tawheed. So what the Shaykh is mentioning here is that they intend, when we categorize Tawheed in this manner with three categories, they try to make it similar to that which they do from adding a fourth category, and that is the category of Al-Hakimiyyah, this category of Tawheed Al-Hakimiyyah. And what we say concerning Tawheed Al-Hakimiyyah is that Tawheed, as Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Tamimi mentioned, it is not an individual aspect of a Tawheed, and no one from the ulama, past or present, has said this. But rather, Tawheed Al-Hakimiyyah is going to enter into the rububiyyah and the lordship of Allah from one angle, and it will enter into the uluhiyyah of Allah Ta'ala from another angle. Meaning, as it relates to Allah Azza wa Jal, then it's going to enter into his lordship. And as it relates to us, the worship of Allah Ta'ala, how we worship him, is going to enter into Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, but it will not be an independent aspect of a Tawheed. والحاكمية سوف يأتي لها مزيد بسط. And concerning Al-Hakimiyyah, more speech is going to come in detail regarding it later, inshallah ta'ala. But once we affirm this, then what is intended by affirming these categories of At-Tawheed is that, firstly, each category, is firstly that we must affirm each category. يتضمن ثانيا العلاقة بين هذه الأقسام. And secondly, you must know the connection there is between each category. The connection between, for example, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Asma wa Sifat and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. There's a connection between each of these categories of a Tawheed. Well, there's a connection between Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. They have a connection to Tawheed al-Ibad or Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. And the connection is by way of what's called al-Mulazama. Meaning that since Allah Ta'ala is the Lord, and since he has these names and attributes, it makes it binding upon us to do what? To single him out in worship. And Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, it has a connection to the other two aspects of Tawheed by way of what's called At-Tadammun. At-Tadammun, meaning that our worship of Allah Ta'ala comprises within it acknowledgement of the fact that Allah Ta'ala, he is the Lord, and he is the one who possesses these names and attributes that make him worthy of our worship. Now, and so we mentioned firstly the category of Tawheed known as Ar-Rububiyyah. And we'll suffice with this for this evening, inshallah ta'ala. Concerning Tawheed Ar-Rububiyyah, Shaykh Ubaid says, "Huwa ifradullah bi khasa'isih." It is to single out Allah Ta'ala with those things that are specific to him. الذي أقر بها المشركون في زمن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. These affairs which even the polytheists during the time of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم affirmed. Meaning even the Quraysh affirmed this aspect of At-Tawhīd, the lordship of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وقر بها السابقون من المشركين قبل قريش ما عدا الفلاسفة الدهرية. And the polytheists, even before the Quraysh, affirmed this aspect of At-Tawhīd, with the exception of the Falasifa Ad-Dahriya, those who they worship time, those who say that there is no hereafter, but rather only time destroys this and the likes of that which Allah has mentioned inside of His book. فإن جميع الفطر السليمة مقرة بربوبية الله. For every upright and sound fitra affirms the lordship of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. وهي إفراد الله بالخلق والتدبير والملك والإحياء والإماتة. And this is to single out Allah Ta'ala to single Him out with creation. I mean, we know that there's no other creator except Him Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And likewise, management and control over the creation, the tadbir. And likewise, ownership of the creation, giving life and causing death. This is what He means by the khasa'is of Allah. Those things that are specific to Allah Ta'ala, we single Him out with all of these things. Meaning we don't say that there is any creator alongside Allah, or that there's any controller alongside Allah, or there's any owner of the universe, nor anyone who gives life or causes death other than Him Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And the Quran, ayyuhal ikhwa, it is filled up with verses that indicate this, and that prove and establish that even with the Quraysh, they used to affirm this aspect of At-Tawhīd for Allah Ta'ala. For Allah Ta'ala, He said inside of His book, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَمَنْ يَخْرُجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيَخْرُجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيَخْرُجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ. Allah Ta'ala says, say, who is it that provides for you from the heavens and from the earth, and who owns hearing and sight, and who brings out the living from the dead and brings out the dead from the living, and who controls the affair? فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ. They're going to say that all of this belongs to Allah Ta'ala. وَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. And say, will you not then have taqwa of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? And the intention of أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ, will you not then have taqwa of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala? This means أَفَلَا تَعْبُدُونَ اللَّهَ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. Will you not then worship Allah Ta'ala alone and single Him out with worship? Once you acknowledge these things. So therefore, Allah Ta'ala used Tawheed al-Rububiyyah as a hujjah for Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. That since you acknowledge all of these things, then will you not then single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala with worship? وَمِنْهَا قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى. From that, likewise, it's a statement of Allah Ta'ala. He says, and like from that, it's a statement of Allah Ta'ala, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ وَالَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء وأنزل من السماء ماء فأخرج به من الثمرات رزقا لكم فلا تجعلوا لله أندادا وأنتم تعلمون. O mankind, worship your Lord who has created you from one single soul. Worship your Lord who has created you, and He's created from those who were before you, so that perhaps you may have taqwa of Him. He who has made for you the earth as a firash, and He's made the heavens as a canopy, and He has sent down water from the sky in order to bring out fruit as a provision for you. Therefore, do not make rivals unto Allah while you know that He alone has the right to be worshipped. This verse, ayyuhal ikhwa, it is the first amr, it is the first command that comes inside the Quran. So the first command, if you look at the book of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and how it is arranged, the very first command that comes in the Quran is this verse, to worship Allah Ta'ala alone, and it's to single Him out with that worship. So the meaning is ما دمتم مقرين بهذه الأشياء. So as long as you are affirming these things, that Allah Ta'ala singled out with them, meaning he's singled out with creation. He is singled out with sending water down from the sky. He is singled out with making the earth as a resting place and the sky as a canopy and the likes of this. وَأَنَّهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ فِيهَا, that he has no share or partner in that. Then since you affirm this, فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لَهُ نِدًّا فِي عِبَادَتِهِ, don't make a rival unto him in his worship, meaning don't worship someone else alongside Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, while you know that he has no partner or share in any of these things. وَلَمْ يَقُولْ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ فِيمَا عَلَمْنَاهُ, Shaykh Ubaid says, and no one amongst the polytheists, amongst as far as we know, neither from the Quraysh nor those who were before them, said that there was a rival who creates alongside Allah, or there is someone else who provides alongside Allah, or there is someone else who controls and manages, who gives life and causes death. No one ever said this. And we can go further and say what Shaykh Salih Fawzani mentioned, that no one ever said this except out of arrogance. No one ever denied the lordship of Allah except out of arrogance. As Fir'aun, Allah Ta'ala said concerning him, فَحَشِرَ فَنَادَى فَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى, that he gathered his people and he called out, proclaiming, I am your Lord, the Most High. Kibr, at-takabbur, yani arrogance is what led him to this. So no one ever denied lordship of Allah Ta'ala except out of arrogance. Now, he says that, and we can add to this, meaning the affirmation of the fact that Allah Ta'ala has been singled out, that he is singled out, meaning that he alone is the creator, the provider, and the controller, the giver of life and the causer of death. أَنَّهُمْ فِي الشِّدَّةِ يُخْلِصُونَ الدُّعَاءَ لِلَّهِ, is that those polytheists, those mushrikun of old, that in shiddah, in times of difficulty and calamity, they would single out and make their worship purely for the sake of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So they knew this. They know this. لِعِلْمِهِمْ, and this was due to their knowledge that the aliha, that their deities and their false gods which they worshipped, were ajiza, they were incapable of saving them when they were in times of distress and difficulty. By way of this, we're able to know the butlan and the invalidity of the claim that the wali yumkin an yakhluq janinan bila ab, that which we find from some of the Sufiya who claim that the wali has the ability to create a fetus inside of the womb of a woman without any father whatsoever. And this claim is batil. For this is from the khasa'is of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And no one from the mushrikun of old ever claimed that. Now, we're going to complete or stop here, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll pick up bi'idhnillahi ta'ala in our next sitting next month. But I believe that the brothers have a couple of as'ila, and bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we'll try to deal with those.
Jazakumullah khair. We really appreciate the time being for the Ustaz on a travel schedule, but still he made it possible to be with us. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that favor. And we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the Ustaz goodness and increase his zeal for da'wah to Salafiyah. There were some few questions that came through, Ustaz, if I could read them out to you.
Fadda.
The first question that goes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am having issues at home about practicing sunnah. My father wants me to stop using niqab, that I should be bending down and doing other things that can nullify my religion. I told him that I wanted to get married, but he insisted that not until I stop practicing the sunnah, he will not be my wali. Please, what can I do?
So my advice, first and foremost, is to have honor and respect for your parents. However, if your parents command you with something that is in disobedience of Allah Ta'ala, then of course we are not to obey them in disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. But speak to them a kind word, and uh, and strive to convince them, being patient with them for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. And uh, this is that which we advise with, without knowing too much about the situation. We advise with patience, honor, and respect to the parents, and likewise, bid'nillahi ta'ala, speaking of kind words, and striving to convince them of the importance of adherence to and following of the Sunnah of our beloved Prophet, alayhi salatu salam. And without doubt, you're not able to disobey Allah Ta'ala for the sake of obedience to the parents. So still speak to them a good word and try to convince them, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakumullah khairan. The second question says, if a person is studying medicine, for example, and intends to save the Muslims and benefit them with his knowledge of it, then is his studying of it within itself considered an act of worship? That is, he intends, if a person is studying medicine, does that applies to an act of worship? Can he worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through studying medicine? Barakallahu fikum.
Let's see somebody. The ulama, they say that the niyyah is that which differentiates between adat and ibadat, meaning between acts of worship and things that are merely habit. Meaning, by way of a good and sound intention, the ulama mentioned that you can even attain an ajr, a reward, for something like using the bathroom, if the intention is right. Meaning that if a person he goes to the bathroom and he adheres to the sunnah in the manner of using the bathroom, not facing the qibla, nor turning his back to the qibla, and observing proper Islamic etiquettes and using the bathroom for the sake of seeking a reward, and he follows those with the intention of anticipating and seeking the reward of Allah Ta'ala, they're going to receive a reward even for using the bathroom. So how much more so something like this, something like studying medicine for the sake of benefiting the Muslims? When you say without doubt a person will attain a reward within Allah Ta'ala if their intention is sound, if their intention is good, and they don't do anything that will compromise their religion, such as studying it in a mixed environment and the likes of this. As long as they don't do anything that will contradict their religion and they do so with good intentions, then they would receive a reward. Bismillah ta'ala.
Jazakumullah khairan. Ahsanallahu ilaykum. Mother grant you goodness. Uh, the questioner asks, can you suggest for me, Ustadh, books to read about the Sufi Tariqa Tijaniya movement? Barakallahu fikum.
Once we come back, I can get back to you on this one, inshallah ta'ala. However, there's some excellent speech from a Shaykh Abdullah Ibn Baz about the Sufiya. And in fact, he has a book. He has an entire book about the Sufis as well, which I was in the process of translating. I will get you the exact title of that book and
Allah Akbar.
and some titles for a couple of more books, inshallah ta'ala. So if the
May
next
Allah
question
ease
can
it.
be the last one. Allah Akbar.
Okay, the last question then. Uh, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you, Ustadh. Brothers in Nigeria had connected people with Mashaykh at Maktabat al-Salafiyya and even with the major scholars through PDFs of books and translations done by the Mashaykh from the West. Many people have left music and posting their pictures on social media, and more specifically, we waged war against methodology of the deviants through these PDF documents, and they were never used for commercial purposes. Recently, we were informed that it is not permissible for us to share them due to the fact that it affects the sales of those books, and we understood that that is the correct thing to do in a place where those books are available for sale. But here in Nigeria, the hard copies are not available for sale, and the few ones that are shipped here are not affordable due to our poor economy and the cost of shipping. Brothers are still masakin, and we can't place forward explaining many of those things and the belief that sharing these PDFs to people is our way out. Are we excused in this case? If we are not excused, what do you advise us to get out of this difficulty? Jazakumullahu khairan.
Mhm. So we cannot say that a person has an excuse to take away the right of their Muslim brother. If these brothers they put forth their efforts in translating these works, printing them, and it costs thousands of dollars sometimes to print books, and to pay for printing costs and to pay for cover designs and the likes of this, for someone to come along and just make a PDF out of it and to and to take away from the sales of those bullets. We can't say that a person has a right to do that no matter what the situation is. However, alhamdulillah, brothers from Maktab Salafiyah, and other than them, we advise of reaching out to them and informing them of the situation. and as long as they give you the right to do so, then you do so. But we don't advise anyone taking it upon themselves to print someone's work without reaching out to the original publishers and taking permission from them. As long as you do this, Allah Ta'ala, and you take permission from them, and then we don't see any harm in it after that. But just doing it, just taking it upon yourself to do so, this is us taking the right away from your Muslim brothers who, again, exert much time and effort to print and produce these books so that the Ummah can benefit from them. We don't want to open that door because we open the door to some brothers here. Someone else thinks it's okay for them to do it, and they may be from other than the people of Sunnah, and they start printing, which has been done already. People who are, they take it upon themselves to print books and to distribute them on the internet for free. When again, it costs thousands of dollars sometimes to produce one book. Because you're paying translators, you're paying printers, you're paying artists and things like this, and typesetters and editors. And someone takes it and they distribute it for free. So again, we advise for reaching out to our brothers from Maktab Salafiyya and like Walter's Authentic Statements and the other Salafi publishers in the West, and asking them for permission to produce PDFs. And as long as they give you permission to do so, then do so. And besides this, there are other means and mediums by way of which you can spread beneficial information. There audios online that are for free, and the people don't charge for teaching and for giving lectures and the likes of this.
Jazakumullah khair. We are really grateful, Ustaz, behind the busy schedule, being part of us here. May Allah SWT grant to goodness. Jazakumullah khairan wa ilman. Till we meet you next time, بإذن الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.